What is up, friend? Hey, I'm Ryan Coral from Studio Sherpas, and this is the Grow Your Video Business podcast, the show created for videographers to build a better business, make a bigger impact, and enjoy the journey. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Core Group. I am so excited that you are here. This is, this is so good. I am so excited. If hustling and grinding, if these are regular parts of your vocabulary and you're trying to do all of the things, this episode, this one right here is for you. We talk about how to free yourself as the business owner from all of the day-to-day things, the things that, you know what, I'm just going to say, I'm reading this book right now. It's called Your World-Class Assistant by Michael Hyatt. Highly recommend this book. I'm reading it at the perfect time because this episode, it's just so good. There's so many things that we do in our business that we don't need to be doing, that are a waste of our time and energy, and there are other people that can do them and that can help us so that we can do the thing that really is the reason why we started these video businesses and the reason why we're trying to help people with video. It's not because you're really good at doing your email or keeping your calendar in sync and all of the things. So that's one of the big things that we talk about. We also talk about how you can turn your business into a machine without sacrificing your creativity. This one is very near and dear to my heart, and I know as creatives, it can feel like, you're going to add all these systems and processes, and you're going to go corporate with your business, and there's more to it, and you don't have to sacrifice the beauty of the films that you create and the creativity that goes into them. So there's more. Stay tuned. We talk about how to get into your zone of genius and the best marketing that you can do for your business. All this and more in this incredible interview with my new friend, Austin McNetzley, who is author of the book From 6 to 7 Figures. Let's get into it because I'm really excited, well, actually, before we do that, don't forget about the Onward Summit. This is our in-person event for corporate filmmakers, wedding filmmakers too. If you're a filmmaker and you're trying to grow your video business in some way, shape, or form, we're getting together at our studio in Detroit, Michigan, October 3rd through the 6th. I would love to see you there. You can go to studiosherpas.com/onward to get all of the information, to save your seat. And I look forward to meeting so many of you. It is going to be an amazing time. There's going to be speakers. There's going to be sessions, time for us to hang out, learn from each other, grow with each other, really think about our businesses and do the work on our businesses that we don't normally get to do because we're normally working in our businesses and doing all of the things. So come to the Onward Summit, studiosherpas.com/onward. Look forward to seeing you there. Now, let's get into this episode. If there was one thing that could have ended my business 17 years ago, it would be because of the numbers. I hate accounting, taxes, W-9s, W-2s, WD-40s. Spreadsheets, all of that stuff. And I hate it mostly because I'm afraid of it. I'm just not great with numbers. If this sounds familiar, or if you're so new in your business that it's not even on your radar yet, you need Core Group. Core Group can help you create financial systems and tax strategies that you need so you can grow profitably, and they've been doing this for over 20 years. They become an extension of your team so that you can stay in your lane of expertise and then lean on them to help guide you along the way. For me, having a team of experts in my corner to help keep track of our books and just to make sure that we're budgeting for taxes appropriately, to have an actual strategy for our taxes and our accounting is priceless, and it allows me to sleep easier at night knowing that I don't have to be an expert in that arena. If you want to avoid surprises in your video business and you want experienced help building a plan for the future that you want, both professionally and personally, head over to studiosherpas.com/core for more information. And when you're ready to set up a free consult with them, make sure to mention Studio Sherpas for a special discount too. got your back. Get more out of your accountant. Go to studiosherpas.com/core. What's up, friends? Hey, I am super excited about today's episode. I've got Austin Netzley with me, who is an author, investor, and business growth advisor, as well as the founder and CEO of 2X, where he helps 6- and 7-figure entrepreneurs get free from the day-to-day grind and start scaling faster than ever. Austin, thank you so much for being here, man.
Ryan, it's a pleasure. I've been looking forward to this since you reached out, so let's get some good value today, huh?
Let's do it. So the first question I have, is there hope for videographers that are stuck in the day-to-day grind to grow and scale their business?
There is more than hope. There is a blueprint to make it happen, to achieve what you want in life.
Let's go.
Entrepreneurs start in business for what? We want to make an impact. We want to have freedom and flexibility. We want to make some money along the way. We want to have this autonomy to go and live this life. That business is just a piece of that life, and it's a very important piece. It's where most of our time goes outside of sleep, right? So we've got to do it right. And what we are trying to share, just like what you're trying to do there, Ryan, is to show people, hey, how can we make it easier? Because it's not easy. There's so many pieces. There's so many different directions. There's so much misinformation, and we're not given this blueprint. That, that's what we try to do, is give people those better steps to take.
It's good to know that there's hope. So I know in my business, in my life, the most success, the most freedom, the most fulfilled that I have felt typically has come from a big failure, or, just some kind of big moment where I realized something that probably was in front of me, all along, but I just didn't grasp it or get a hold of it. What was the moment for you in your life where you realized, like, hey, there's something inside of me, and you kind of like birthed this blueprint where you're able to help people like us?
Well, I'm a little bit of a slow learner. Sometimes it takes a couple of those moments before it really whacks me over the head. And
I'm familiar.
That was the case for my situation. I had to call 911 not once, but twice. And it was really that second time, from burning myself out from the business, from trying to do it all and be a superhero, from trying to, at the same time, live a 20-something single lifestyle and party and forgo sleep and like all these things. My body was shutting down. I couldn't breathe or sleep. Every time I would nod off to sleep, I would gasp up for breath in bed, and I had to call 911. I had to give in, and I was sharing with the paramedic, like, hey, here's my situation, and I'm hustling, and I'm grinding, and I'm doing these things. Like, I was proud of it, and he looked at me with like pity on his face. He's like, dude, you're killing yourself over here trying to do it all. He wasn't impressed with me at all. And like seeing that in his face, I was like, oh, yeah, I can't do this long term. And then I went back to the drawing board. All right, I see people succeeding. I see people thriving. Yes, a lot of it's fake that we know now on social media and stuff. But I'm like, there has to be a better, simpler, more strategic way to do this. So that's when I went on a real hard journey to really figure that out and ultimately put it together. And I started out as an engineer in the corporate world. So like my mind instantly went into engineering mode of like, all right, how do we turn this into be a machine? What are the systems and numbers? What do we need? How can we make it like a streamlined process? I went right back to that. And that was the best thing that I could have done, because now that's the way that we build businesses, so that they're consistent, predictable, and so that we're free from the weeds, so that we can work on our zone of genius, or the things that we want to, or on growth, not admin stuff and putting out fires and doing all this reactive stuff. That's not why we started in business to begin with,
Yeah, that's so good, man. That's powerful. I think one of the hardest things for me in this business, and really for anybody, they get into this because they make a video for somebody, and somebody's like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing, and you're like, oh wow, like I guess there's something here. Yeah. So there's this like creative aspect to what we do, which most people in this industry would say like, yeah, I'm highly creative, and I'm trying to figure out the business side of things while trying to improve, in creativity and the way I approach my films and all that stuff. So I think a big struggle is how do you turn something that's supposed to be creative, handcrafted, all of these like these powerful words that don't compromise the creative approach and process, but also, can you have that and also turn it into a machine? Can it be machinized? Is that mechanized?
um, the answer is systems provide the structure to have all the freedom that you want, right? Like what we want to do is we want to put the proper structure in place through different frameworks, through different processes and procedures to get us into the zone of genius so that we can still create. So for instance, everything when you break it down is a process in some way, shape, or form. Let's take the hero's journey, which a lot of creatives are familiar with. That is a process. That is a formula. That is a step-by-step. That too, within that, we can have so much creativity and flexibility, but at the end of the day, that's a scalable, repeatable, duplicatable process, right? And what we want to do most importantly, before we even get to that level, is like where we really focus first is like, how can we streamline and systemize and machinize everything else that's not creative so that we can spend as much time as possible on the creative stuff, right? And like there's so much of that. Everything from getting clients to getting paid to the post-production stuff to delivering it to communicating with clients. Like how can we really dial in all of that stuff as a true business owner hat so that we can spend as much time as possible where you want to in the creative hat, right? And that's a big distinction to make as well. Is like you're not just a creative anymore. If you try to make this into, an income bigger than just trading time for money and doing something on the side, hey, we've got to have part of our time be a business owner hat, and yes, still definitely have part of your time be a creative hat. But those two hats are completely different.
Yeah, I love that, man. Super powerful way to mechanize your stuff. Well played there. So where does somebody start? Like what's zone of genius, system attack, like for a creative doing video, like where is a great place for somebody to start looking at things in their business that can be systematized?
Before we even get there, we've really got to start with your strategy and model. And what we look at with your strategy, if you're starting out below $250,000 a year in revenue, like really what you need to figure out is like, what are you selling and to who? Like we've got to make sure that it's really clear because like what most people do is like at the beginning, they're doing it for fun. Then they see that there's a business opportunity here. Then they just start to take on anybody and everybody and it grows legs and you're not really targeted and specific on who you're serving and what you're producing. So we have something called the Model 1 framework, which is, are you selling the right people, the right stuff at the right price with the right positioning in a way that can scale? So that's a mouthful. Are you selling the right people, the right stuff at the right price with the right positioning in a way that can scale? Where it starts is getting really clear on who. Because if you have like 3 totally different clients that you're working with, that's going to make fulfillment really hard because it's going to have fulfillment be dramatically different for all 3. So over time, we want to get really clear on who we can serve. And by doing so, we cut out so much of the possible problems that we can have. So we get really clear on your what we call ideal target audience, the right avatar, if you will. Then we're looking at, hey, what's the right things that you can offer them? Like, how are you going to charge them? What are the deliverables? Getting really clear on that, making that an irresistible offer. Now we're set up to duplicate that over and over because it's much more clear. Most people don't get super clear on those couple things, and again, set themselves up to fail. So the first step, what I'm getting to, Ryan, is really about your strategy and making sure that we're really clear and honed in there. And that can take some time to really validate, but if you can get clear on that, it's going to be much more easy to duplicate on the back end.
Mm-hmm. Man, but you ask somebody like, where do you get business from? And most people in this probably world just say like, oh, referrals, like that's our top. And so the problem is when we were filming weddings, it was like, oh, like we know exactly who we're marketing to. Like it was really easy to identify those. They were identified. But then when we transitioned about a decade ago to working with businesses and we would get referred by a business, like we weren't targeting a specific industry or business. It was like whoever would hire us. And because we didn't have a marketing strategy, we didn't have an outbound strategy. So we were getting exactly like what you're saying. We would get, University of Michigan would call us and would need these 10 videos doing all of these things over here. And then this plastics company would call us and they would need, a capabilities film. And then these guys would need a motion graphics film. And there was just no systematizing any of the process for creating those videos.
Yep.
So what we did, we did everything we could to systematize the phone calls and the meetings and everything leading up to, okay, like now we've got to custom quote this whole thing from scratch, which takes forever. I mean, it is just like that is something that I think so many people just assume is part of this whole deal, is custom quoting. When we were in the wedding world, we had these packages and then custom quoting starting at X. That made it real easy. If people identified with like one of the couple of packages, and then for our, higher end clientele that really wanted something more handcrafted, we would take that extra time knowing that pricing started at a certain amount. But with just like, hey, we service all businesses, come one, come all, I just resonate so much with what you're saying. It's so hard to create systems around the total custom quoting of all of the things of any kind of video that comes in. It is like, makes me want to call 911 right now.
Don't do it. Bring back some bad memories for me. I totally agree with everything that you just said. And to more directly answer your question, once we do get into that phase of like, all right, how do we start creating systems? Where do we start creating? The first thing that we want to start with is as much admin as possible, and then your basic stuff related to finances, because the amount of agencies and even freelancers becoming agency owners that we work with that don't know their financials very well, like they're just setting themselves up to fail if they don't know some of that and get ahead financially and start to treat their numbers. Because as you start to build your team, we've got to be on top of your profitability and making sure that you're building things. Because a lot of people will start to build their team and they'll see this big opportunity. They'll start getting some stuff on their plate. And then they look back and they're like, wait a minute, I'm not making any money. So we've got to start with the admin stuff first. Then we're looking at the cash and financials. Then we're looking at fulfillment, sales, and marketing. And over time, it doesn't happen overnight, but we should have the proper systems and processes and team in place for all of those areas of your business that things are humming. From a marketing standpoint, so you've always got your lead and pipeline full. Sales, your numbers there, and that that you're going to close a certain amount of them. And definitely one of the key areas is obviously fulfillment, because that's where most of the work is, that you've got to have that done and done right so that you can actually scale.
I love it. Man, you're so smart. This is good.
I've been there. I've done it. Like I've been, working with hundreds and hundreds of businesses directly that we put together the blueprint of like, hey, there's a lot to focus on. The only thing that we can do is focus on one at a time, though. So what's that order, right? And that order is so impactful, because so many people are out there and they're working on some lead gen strategy when it's not a lead gen strategy. It's their strategy and approach of what we talked about earlier of like, who is your audience? What are you selling them? Can we make that irresistible? So like, if we can just attack this in a more strategic way, then we don't have to burn out. We don't have to work 80+ hour weeks,
Yeah. That's really important to, I think, just to spend a second on. If you focus on, and a lot of people, most of the people that, tell me the thing that they're struggling with or that they wish was different in their business, it's they wish they had more leads. But exactly what you're saying, I've been there where we had so many leads coming in and it was like, wow, there's so many opportunities. But our processes for taking those people from like start to finish, whether or not they even hired us, was so jacked up that people were like, why aren't you emailing me back? Why aren't you calling me back? What's the next step? What do you need from us? Like, why are we waiting? Like, why is this taking so long? Like all of those things. And then from a production standpoint, we've got all these projects and all these things open, and we're not finishing anything because we haven't made it very clear to our own team to say, okay, when project gets to this point, like here's what you do. And it might just seem like, hey, you edit the thing and you send it to a client and get revision or ask them whatever feedback and then finish it. But there are so many nuances that I think we just kind of gloss over and just assume like, yeah, it's just as easy as like, you shoot the thing, you edit it, ask for whatever feedback, and then make the changes and deliver it, and you're done. But without really clear instructions from start to finish, from before somebody hires you to when they hire you to like when you're delivering and everything in between, and even after delivery, there should be some things that you do consistently to help bring in more of that same kind of work. What are, if we start with admin, like what's something that just gets easily overlooked?
I would say quick and effective client communication. So if your client ever has to ask for something, that usually means you lost. So I've had a digital agency myself. I've had, a number of service-based businesses that are heavy client focused, and videos are obviously like very much that. There's a lot of, oftentimes ego and opinions involved. So like what you want to do is to over communicate and just have some type of set cadence, have a proper organization of things, of where they're at. And again, so much of this an admin can support with. So if you do that alone, that's going to stop so many fires and reactivity from happening. Next is there's a lot of things related to marketing that are very much admin, whether it's things on social media, whether it's making sure that content goes out, whether it's cleaning up certain things on the website or whatever. There's definitely things there. Those are a couple that come to mind, but like the first thing that we have people do when they join our one-on-one program is list out in granular detail where all of their time is going. And as soon as you write it out, and we like to make it tangible by writing it out, because as soon as you can like write it out and physically see it, it again makes it tangible so that we can address it, and you can see, oh my gosh, I'm spending X hours a week on this, and X hours a week on this, and 30 minutes a week on this, and you add it up. 40 to 60% of almost every small business owner's time is going towards admin stuff that an assistant can do. And that assistant can be paid sometimes $3 an hour in the Philippines, So it's like, we've really got to identify what those things are. And the list is really countless. And in addition to that, one hidden area is outside of business. Right? Like there's so much that goes on outside of business, whether it's ordering groceries or, doing different errands or, even cleaning your house.
Cutting the grass.
Mowing the grass, handling, different yard. Like these are things, if you can offload them for, $15 an hour, let's say, which there's a countless number of activities that you can offload for $15, $20 an hour. And you can then replace that with $50, $100, $200, $500 an hour tasks, you can very quickly change your business and income. But again, it's a big mindset shift to do that. So what we do is like every single day, at the end of your day, go through and say, hey, here's the things that I spent my time on that I shouldn't have. And we delegate that off to somebody else. And if we're getting stuff off of our plate every single day, again, you're going to be in a whole new reality within a matter of weeks, let alone months of doing this, and just retrain your mind.
I feel like we haven't dived into this at all, but the 2X thing, even just your whole, all of what you do could just be, I feel like this admin thing, and you would 2X people's productivity, which ultimately, like, yes, if I'm freed up, if I find, half of my time back, is that how you say that? And I'm able to, essentially like potentially make double what I'm making because I'm freed up this much, and I can. So where there might be a disconnect for creatives, number one, we don't value our time, right? We just don't. We're like, oh, I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm not as good as, so and so, fill in the blank or whatever filmmaker, video company that you love, and you're just like, oh, they definitely should be charging $10,000 and beyond for the videos that they do because they're so good, and maybe one day I'll get there. And but you actually never get there. You never get to the point where you're just like, no, I take that back. You always are looking at other people and like, yeah, I want our stuff to be better. I want to be able to charge more. I think that's kind of always there. But what you are, the value that you have and what you're able to, how you're able to help businesses grow, expand, connect with their audience, like that is powerful, and that changes businesses, that changes lives. So without valuing your time at $50 an hour or $100 an hour, without even starting there, Austin, it's super hard for people to think like, man, I can't pay somebody $20 an hour for this task or even $30 an hour when they don't, you listener, not all of you, but some of you, because I know you, don't even value themselves at being worth $30, $40, or $50 an hour. So it's like, man, like I could just knock this task out on my own, save myself $20 or $30 an hour. And so just talk a teeny bit more about that, like where it's like, man, even at $30 an hour, are we spending too much getting somebody to help us with tasks that just kind of fill our plate. Because as a business owner, there's this like thing where if you're checking off tasks, you feel like you're accomplishing stuff, you're doing stuff, you're moving the needle of your business forward, but that's not always true.
Yep, absolutely. Look, the first step in my book is all about the mindset. Like, I don't care if you're doing 5 million a year, if you're just starting out, or if you're somewhere in between, like most people listening here. The first step for all of us is related to the mindset. And that is something that takes some time to develop. So a couple things related to the mindset. Number one is you need a vision. This vision, we were literally just talking about this, and you had Cameron Hammer on as well to talk about this, is you've got to get clear on what your mission is. Where do you want to be? The more that you can see that, the more that you can feel that, that's going to help you in attracting clients and team members, most importantly. B, it's going to keep you focused on that. But also C, it's going to start to like retrain your mind for where you need to be and who you need to become to get there, right? So it's going to keep you focused on what matters and what doesn't. And the reality is most of what people are working on doesn't matter very much, or at least isn't their highest and best use of time. So the vision and seeing that and really believing that alone helps you make better decisions and helps take your confidence to the next level. So that's number one. Number two is related to this process of leveling up the value of your time. You've got to start small. There's so many things that are so tiny. And my first hire is still with me here today. She is a virtual assistant in the Philippines. And I started out paying her $3 per hour. Now she is paid very handsomely and gets to live on the nice side of town, yada, yada, because she's developed with me over time. But I started with those $3 an hour tasks to just keep my sanity and get some things off my plate. So start really small. A lot of people, will hear something and then they'll go out and try to be this hero overnight or try to be this 7-figure CEO when they're only at $50,000 a year. No, let's start small. The reason why the company is called 2X is like we want to look at where we're at and we want to double that. And we want to do it with the systems and processes, team numbers in place so that it's a machine, so that as soon as we get there, that's the new low. And now we're very comfortable and confident at this level that then we're going and doubling again. And then once we get there, same thing. And if we do it in the proper way, the new highs become the new lows, and then we just level up one at a time, and your mindset can actually transform in that way. It's not from zero to hero. It's one systematic step at a time. So start with the small stuff, get some wins under your belt, get comfortable letting go of a couple things, even as small as they are. But as soon as you can do that, if you take the time and do it right, then you're like, wait a minute. This is amazing. That thing happened with a client and I didn't do anything. Oh, I'm going to do more of that. And we slowly develop ourselves to where we don't want to do any of this other stuff.
Yeah. I love that, man. That is really powerful. And I don't want to be ignorant or anything like that, but what would be like a couple examples of something that would be a $3 an hour activity or just something that's so small that can easily go unnoticed?
Oh man, there's literally countless things. For instance, this morning even, I had 2 of our assistants. Now I've got 3 personal assistants. I've got, inside and outside of business, I've got multiple assistants that I just know and protect the value of my time. So I'm trying to do as little as possible. Some different examples are, I had 2 different assistants run different reports for me this morning. Number 2 is I had somebody do some research for me for some upcoming emails that we have. I had somebody go and schedule a meeting with somebody else, and they've got access to my inbox, yada, yada, and they put in there, hey, this is Sugar from the 2X team, yada, yada. So they, it's not like we're, necessarily fake about it in any way, shape, or form, but those are several things, like research or organization or related to reports or numbers. These are things that I can obviously easily do, but why would I, So those are 4 examples right there.
I bet she's real sweet.
Dude, she is awesome. It's so funny. Her sister's name is Chi-Chi, and Sugar was so good that I hired her too.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So, and it's not her real name, but she's a sweetheart for sure.
That's fun. I think that's powerful. I was doing some math, and when you start looking at what could some of those tasks be, and just start try, like, like Austin, the examples that he had, I've never thought to, before having an assistant, I never thought to have somebody else do research for me. I'm like, I got to hop into Amazon, find the best deal on this thing, or figure out, like, when we're using Zapier, like, can it work with, okay, let me just hop and Google that really quick. But it's typically more than one step. So it could be, what I think is a quick 20 or 30-second thing turns into a 4-minute read, and then I've got to, I'm comparing two different things or whatever. So 6 minutes a day, if you found somebody to help you for 6 minutes a day, 5 days a week, that's 30 minutes. And at the end of a month, that's like 2 hours. So it's kind of like, man, would you like to have 2 extra hours over the course of a month? So like a small task, I did the math right? 6 minutes. Something that you're like, well, it's only 6 minutes, a day. Well, but you add that up, and hopefully you're starting to see, like, maybe it would be worth it. And I found when I started with a virtual assistant, I started delegating, started small, and then I'm like, oh, wow, they're able to do that. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll try this. And then the more things that they were doing, the more I was looking at my schedule and my things and all, and I'm like, I guess let me try this. And just when I first started, I was like, I don't even know where to start. I don't know what tasks to delegate. But then it got to a point where it's like, oh man, this is addicting. How many other things can I hand off that really I'm not special. I'm not so special. I'm not an amazing Googler. I'm pretty good at it. But it's like, get over yourself and start being smarter, because honestly, we can all make a bigger impact in the world if we stay in our lane, in our zone of genius, and stop spending so much time doing things that really just aren't helping.
Yeah, and it's not just saving the 2 hours there. There's so many repeatable tasks that, let's say that there's something that takes you about 15 minutes per day to do. If you spend the time, let's say it takes you 20, maybe 30 minutes, let's say 30 minutes. It takes you 30 minutes to train somebody else to do this particular thing that you do every single day. You can do it in your sleep because you've been doing it for years, but it takes you 15 minutes per day. If you spend that 30 minutes now to train somebody, give them a little bit of feedback and have them do that, that saves you 15 minutes into eternity, right? And these things stack on top of each other, and almost every single thing that we do in our business is something that happens over and over and over again. So if we can slowly take these repeatable tasks off of our plate, we're saving tens and tens of hours. We're getting back literally months of time in a year to be able to, spend it on ourselves and have some fun, but also B, to spend it to work on growing the business, or C, on the creative stuff, all three of which are way better than doing the admin things, So, and we haven't even talked about other roles. We're just talking just about admin stuff and the opportunity there.
Yeah, and which brings us to, I would love to just touch on the finance stuff, but the admin stuff and the finance stuff, for me, those are the things I just don't like doing them. They're not fun. Exactly. They're not fulfilling. They're not creative. They're not a great exercise of the muscles that I have inside of me, that of the things that I really want to be doing. Yeah. So even if it's just that, like, wow, I get to do less of the things that just drain me, there's some huge value there. Why don't you talk a little bit just about, like, where does somebody start with the finances of stuff?
Yeah, the first thing
I'm retiring. I'm done.
I've been there, man. I've made up so many words on that side. The big things are, first and foremost, you just got to track your basic numbers. Like, a lot of people don't even know their real revenue. They don't know what's out there outstanding in accounts receivable, meaning people owe to you. And like, oftentimes I was in this spot of, like, I was afraid oftentimes to reach out to people for money that they agreed to pay me for my services, right? And I was so afraid to reach out to them, and I missed out on probably collectively, close to $100,000, if not more, by just not really being on top of that. So those are some of the basic ones, but then every single month going through a basic P&L and just understanding the basic, like, you don't have to be a master of finances and things, but you do need the basic numbers. You need a bookkeeper in place, and you really need to ideally understand your profitability. If you have multiple major clients, or if you have multiple products, really, if you can understand your profitability, what you're often going to see is that the profitability per client or per offering are oftentimes dramatically different. So a lot of people don't look at the numbers in that enough granularity that they don't really see, wow, this type of client is way more profitable. I'm going to, potentially lean into that. Or they're losing money over here and they don't really know it. So just tracking your basic financials, and then second, making sure that you separate your personal from your business, like treat it like a real business, go pro. And then third is we like to get ahead financially. So we like to have at a minimum 2 months worth of business expenses saved in the bank, ideally much more than that. But that way, if revenue stops for a second or something happens in the economy, like you're still good. But most people are living paycheck to paycheck still within their business. That's a stressful spot to be. You're one major change from being in a really bad situation and then having to take on a bad project that then keeps you in the weeds, that keeps you on this hamster wheel. Yep. No, we want to get ahead in what we call the power position. So to do so, we want at least at a minimum 2 months of expenses that you don't even touch. It's just there and for the worst case scenario, but ideally 3 months or more.
Oh, man, so much goodness in there. When you're talking about knowing what projects are more profitable than others, for us, for the longest time, when the first decade of our business, we were doing wedding films, and then we transitioned to working with corporations. So normally working on Saturdays, now we're working Monday through Fridays. But then also we're working with corporations that have way more money than people have to spend on their wedding, and realizing at some point, like, man, we're charging half of what we would charge a corporate client for these weddings, and they're super fun, super fulfilling. We love these families. It's incredible, but it's not as profitable. We're I don't want to say it, but we're losing money. Even though we're charging people thousands of dollars to film their wedding, we're losing money on some of these projects. So we had to relook at how we were doing this, and we said we need to minimally, like our starting price for wedding films, if we're going to do them, needs to be similar, the same, or whatever, as what we're doing for our corporate clients. Yep. And that just is what it is. So I think looking at knowing where you're profitable, using something like the budget maximizer, shameless plug, to really figure out what your time, how much time you're investing, how much time you're seeing, or how much money you're seeing, and how profitable you are. Super, super smart. The power position, I love that. Having 2 months. As a creative business owner, to not have bandwidth to think about the business, to work on the business, to be creative for your projects, that's almost impossible when you're wondering if you're going to get paid next week, when you're wondering if a check is going to come in, if you're wondering if you're going to land a new contract. Like, not having any wiggle room, that adds a stress that, like, most of us don't even think about, to say, like, what impact is this having on what we're creating, what we're delivering for our clients? It messes stuff up. Yeah,
for sure.
Well, let's get into, I'd love to touch on marketing and fulfillment. I think there's probably some good stuff in there that we need to be thinking about.
Yeah. Let's talk about both of those together. The best marketing that you can do is great fulfillment. Like you mentioned it, most people, their number one a source of clients is referrals. So let's make some raving fan happy customers, and if we do so, where we're just over delivering, and they are very, very satisfied with what you do, guess what? They probably know other people that can support you. So we always start with growth in fulfillment first, because we know if we've got a great process there, if we are producing raving fan customers, A, we can keep them longer. B, we can charge them more. C, they can drive more referrals. And if we do that, you've got a crazy healthy business. So growth begins with fulfillment. And don't forget your best leads that you can get, which is the customers that you've already got. If you can just keep your clients longer, have them pay you more, and then have them drive referrals, those two are the best possible lead sources that you can have.
There's so much gold. I need to start charging for this podcast. This is rich, man. Really, really good. Yeah.
And here's the deal, dude. So many people are focusing on social media, and I need to run advertising. I need to do this, that. No, we got to over 7 figures in business by running next to zero things on advertising, by having one product at one price, by doing very minimal stuff in marketing. And I did that in another business as well. How? With great fulfillment. Like if you just make people raving fan customers, it's going to lead to a very healthy business.
Yeah. Yeah, but going back to that idea of like, well, at least if I'm posting on social, I know I've got to take a picture, I've got to write a caption and upload it online. I'm doing something, so I feel like I'm doing that with the intention of trying to get more customers. But the most scalable kind of business is one that's really strong on the inside. In social media, that's all about like trying to put your best stuff out there and hoping that can be your biggest source of referrals and leads and new jobs. And I to my detriment, one of my buddies, John, who I'm not going to say his last name, I asked him for some honest feedback on one of my social media channels. And he's like, honestly, dude, it's like, looks like you're an old guy trying to look cool or like be young or something on social. I'm like, well, that makes a lot of sense because, I've hired somebody a little bit older than me who's been managing it, and I just don't touch it because I've found so much more better use of my time to say I could post on social, or I can think more about my business and work on it. And that's the choice I've made. And sure, we probably have missed out on some work by not posting on social, but I went on a 3-week vacation earlier this year that I don't even know if I posted on social media. But I was able to do that because my business isn't built on social media. So what I've tried to do for a long time is say like, hey, listen, you don't have to, that doesn't need to be a way sure, you can add that to the things that you're doing, but all the things that you're saying, your best leads are happy customers, people that you're already serving, and you find a couple of channel clients or clients that have a lot of different opportunities, and you don't have to find tons and tons of new clients or tons and tons of new leads. Just serve the people that you already like working with, who are already clients of yours, and they don't. I mean, maybe some of them care about social media, but I think that's a great point. And
they do care about social proof. They don't care about social media though. So like what I would rather do is make really happy raving fan clients and use them as a success story, feature their story, because this way we get social proof, we get some amazing content that we can use in whatever way that you want. But our ego will screw us up. Our ego thinks that we have to do social media and that we have to tell the world how good we're doing. Let's just show them with results, right? And let's do that. Let other people chase these shiny things. Let these other people try to get likes and stuff, while you focus on things that truly bring you joy. And social media is not that for 99% of people. And B, driving your business forward. If you do those two things, again, you're going to be in a pretty good spot to have what few people do have, which is that freedom and flexibility that you just mentioned that you were able to have.
Yeah, I love that. Austin, this has been spectacular. That is a word that I can say, I think. Where can people find you online?
Check us out at 2x.co. That's the shortest domain you'll ever hear, 2x.co. We've got some amazing resources there for you. We've got free systems masterclass. We've got a free audiobook that we give away from 6 to 7 figures. So lots of good stuff there. Check it out. We've got great blog and everything. So there to help you get free and grow and do so in a simpler way.
I love it. Yeah, from 6 to 7 figures. That book was awesome. Definitely one of my favorite reads from this summer, or favorite listens. And you listen to it. Like it's fun to have you, here and reading it. All those things. Austin, thank you again so much. How do you want to leave us today?
I want to leave you today by saying, keep following Ryan. He is going to guide you to the promised land. He is going to show you step by step exactly what to do to keep it simple, to stay in your zone of genius, and just take one idea of what we talked about today, go implement it, and let Ryan and I know how we can support.
Awesome. Austin, thank you again. Okay, now I want to know, like, which part of this episode resonated with you. Leave a comment. Do you feel like you could get an assistant? Do you think that you're doing all of the things and you should be doing all of the things? I would love to hear from you. So leave me a comment. Feel free to message me, Ryan@studiosherpas.com. And don't forget, if you're not inside of our Facebook group, get in there. It's the Grow Your Video Business Facebook group. You can just do a search on Facebook and find us. Jump into that group. The community is growing, and people are. It is awesome. And I gave away Starbucks drinks. I mean, if you want a free Starbucks drink, hop into the group. But seriously, it is incredible. A group of videographers, and people are encouraging each other. People are growing, and it's just been really, really cool to see. So if you're not a part of the community, get in there. I would love to see you there. And speaking of seeing you there, get to the Onward Summit. Find out more, go to studiosherpas.com/onward, and we'll come hang out at our studio and have a great time. And yes, so that's all I have for you, my friend. I am for you, for the success of your business. Thank you for listening to the show. If you like it, please share it with somebody else that could benefit, especially this episode. I think there's so many, I shouldn't say especially this episode, all of the episodes, but I think there are some very practical things in this episode that we should all be doing and working toward for our businesses. That's it. Ryan Coral signing out for now. Talk to you real soon. See ya.